Welcome to Christian.com's YouTube channel, and we are going to have a question and answer session. And in this video, we're going to talk about the verse where it states that Jesus sweat blood. And the question is, did Jesus sweat blood? And it's something that you have to be really attentive to and pay attention. Always read the Bible yourself, and because you can get caught up in the hearsay and end up in folklore or legend, or however you want to say it. And what we're going to do is we're going to really look and kind of identify what actually transpired, and you have to read the verse itself. So let's go to that verse, which is Luke 22 verse 44. Now, this is more so about sweat. So let's read the verse. So Luke 22 verse 44, and being in an agony he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was as it were great drops of blood falling down on the ground. So we have to really look at the text, and it says was as it were and not that it was. So the description actually has merit, and let's go to the next screen. Let's go to the next screen, and then you'll see exactly what I'm saying, because I experienced it myself. So let's go to the next segment. Now, we've experienced it ourselves. If you look at the definition, sweat is a liquid made of 99% of water, 10% of salt, or I'm sorry, 1% of salt and fat. Up to a quart of sweat evaporates each day. When your body becomes overheated, you sweat more. The evaporation of sweat from your skin cools your body. So this happened to me while I was in Japan. And it's interesting because I had studied the verse before, and then I experienced. So when I was in Germany, when I was in Japan, I was in the on the island of Kyushu, and the weather was just right. And I went out for an exercise, went out for a run, and at that time, my uncle had a really nice spring that was on his property, and he would always get me this spring water, and it was really, really good. And I drank a lot of the water, so I was hydrated and whatnot, or really hydrated. So I went on the run, and after the run, it was really good. I pushed myself and I stopped. And it's that typical when you bend over, you place your hands on your knees, and I'm looking at the ground, and the sweat is just dropping and splattering outward. And it just keeps dropping, dropping, dropping. And it's almost, I mean, you could actually hear it hit and then splatter, hit and it splattered. So the blood, or the reference of the sweat, it dripped like the blood. And I know some of you have experienced it and you've seen it. And when you look at the ground, it just splatters almost like the CSI movies. And what it is that your sweat has even more salt in it than the 1% in what they say. And it's that sometimes, for example, when you sweat, you see the outline of the salt that's in your clothes, and where the water evaporates and it leaves the salt. Now that salt is what increases the viscosity of the water, and it makes the sweat a lot heavier, and you get that splatting type of residue. And that's what Jesus was experiencing. So there's a big difference, though. We experience and we see it, those of you who exercise and exert a lot of energy. But we're going to talk about the difference here. The difference with Jesus is Jesus was not running or exerting any kind of work or exercise. Just imagine working that level of sweat without moving because he was just praying. So that had to be an extremely stressful scenario where he is sweating like someone who just ran 5 or 10 miles. So you've got to kind of recognize that level of sweat. So whenever you hear this verse and they talk about it, and now they start to talk about the capillaries bursting and all of that, the verse doesn't say that it was blood, it says that it was as if. And now the next time you exert and you exercise to that extreme level, watch your sweat, and when it hits the ground you'll see it splatter out and it will almost look just like a blood. So that's the reality of that particular verse. And like I say, always read the verse, and whatever you learn from anyone, even myself, study it, investigate it yourself, and then come to the truth, and always ask for the discernment from the Holy Spirit. So may you find God's blessing. Please like, subscribe, and share, and we'll talk to you later.